Hey, Duane, it's good to meet you, man. How's things going?
Doing well, thank you. What time is it there?
It is 7 a.m.
Good work.
Hey, I've got kids. I'm usually up at 5 a.m.
I hear you. Yes, I understand. I was up at 7 this morning myself, so
Yeah, whereabouts are you? Just at home? Kicking about?
I'm at home in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice. Nice.
Today is a holiday, it's Labor Day.
Oh, I got you on a public holiday, mate.
Yeah, that's fine. It's
What
fine.
what time's it there now?
It's 4 in the afternoon. Um, I was at a coffee shop just an hour ago having coffee with Jeff Matz from High on Fire, and he was passing through town. So I'm fully awake and ready to do this.
Ready to rock and roll, ready to rock and roll. Well, man, I gotta say, thanks for joining us on the show. I'm pretty damn excited. The new Jesus Lizard album, Rack, is out on September 13, and it's a solid album, dude. It's
Thank you.
since Blue back in 98. What made right now the time for new Jesus Lizard?
Um, well, we started playing together again in 2009 on intermittently, and it went really well. It seemed like people liked us and they thought we sounded good and all that. Um, so it just seemed like for me personally, I just wanted to have some new songs to play live. As simple as that, really. Um, so we started making demos, oh, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And then, we were making progress, and there was the COVID kind of slowed things down again. And then we picked it back up and we're able to finish it right at the end of last year. So that brings us up to now. So now the album's coming out, we're playing shows. The world needs some new Jesus Lizard to put a little smile on its face and a spring in its step, as it were.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Because I read, was it Lord Godiva,
Godiva.
Godiva, because that's how I talk at 7 a.m. That's an old one, but the rest of them are new tracks that you've written, right?
Yeah, oh, that was, we started working on that back in the day and we never quite finished it, never did a definitive version. So yeah, we started with that. There was another one actually, it'll be a single later falling down. That was also kind of put together out of parts from something from that era. But that's it. Everything else has been written really in the last couple of years.
So what, being that they were that from back then, were they just riffs on tape or like burnt CDs or in like the Jesus Lizard vault? Like
Oh
what?
no, these were things that we had actually we would go in the studio and demo, say, a batch of tunes all at once, like a half dozen or a dozen or so. Um, and so it was just like an incomplete version with rough vocals in that. And we never bothered even listening to the old version. We just kind of started over and everybody remembered basically the riffs, and then we kind of just rebuilt it and added some new parts, and it worked. So
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I love it. I love this album. It's
thank
exactly
you.
what I needed for this year. Something to really it's raw. You know, everything out there's so damn polished, and I love how raw it is and rock and roll. That's what we need. We need that honesty. You know?
Yeah, and there's some detours on there. There's a couple of little atmospheric weird things that, so it's not so monolithic, I'd say. Um, so I'd like to think it's a pretty well-rounded album, but yeah, it has a pretty common vibe and continuity, shall we say, all the way through.
And it does continue with the one word album titles as well,
Yes,
which is
I'll give you a one-word answer. Yes.
yes, that's right. I mean, is it hard to is it harder to sort of come up with one word album titles than it would be than like, you know, a longer one?
Yeah, well, it if nothing else, it forces you to find a way to keep it to narrow down your options. It's, you know what I mean? too many options and it sounds like a book title or it sounds like a movie title where it's like a sentence or something. And we would never get anything done if we had to do that.
It's one of the hardest things. Naming tracks and naming albums, I think, and artwork. That's where bands usually get stuck, I find. Well, me anyway.
Yep, sure.
But of course, this is your first album through Ipecac, where previously, where you're on the major label Capitol Records. While you released material, through Mike's label before, like with Tomahawk. How did it come about for this record, and how was that process compared to dealing with big label?
Well, before we were on Capitol, keep in mind, we were on Touch and Go, which is a Chicago-based indie label for years. So that's more like where we come from, that world. The other thing was just there was that brief period in the 90s when the big companies were throwing money around and signing people. And we
Mm,
managed to get in on that briefly. So this is kind of just more like a return to reality, really. Um, and it's just there was other possible labels, some that were interested, some that we liked, but it just seemed like I've had good luck with Ipecac, and it just seemed like a good fit. When you think of them, if you're into that scene, they're known for hard rock and experimental music, and it just seemed like this was a good fit for us. And they fans of the band, and they've been listening to us and watching us ever since we started. So we knew that they would understood what we were about and where we were coming from and what we were trying to do. Um, so it just made sense.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And as mentioned before, you briefly reformed a couple of times over the years. But besides the new album, what's different this time on a personal level and creative level? Has much changed for you boys?
Well, sure. Obviously, we're older and we're at different stages in our lives, and the world is different. Um, so, things as you get older, or maybe people around, there's a sense of mortality. People have disappeared in your lives, but other people replace them, whether you have families of your own and that kind of thing. So, um, there's a certain gravitas that maybe people pick up along the way as you accumulate time on this planet. But at the same time, it made us realize all the more that what we have, we still have is special and between the four of us. And what we like about doing this hasn't changed. The idea of get together and just uh, create something out of nothing and have it to be like rock should be fun and exciting and empowering and all those things. And that has never stopped, even at this point in our lives. So we're all doing it for those reasons. And when we do this, we get something out of it we just don't get from anything else. And I didn't really stop doing music, really. I mean, I moved and I kept doing other things, but it was never quite like it wasn't like the Jesus Lizard. This is a whole nother thing. And so, no, we're just very fortunate that we get to do this again.
Do you find like you were still close mates throughout those years that you weren't active? Still, you still message each other and stay in touch?
Absolutely. We stayed in touch. If I was traveling, I would run into those guys. They would come out and see me, or I'd come out and see them if they were doing something. We stayed in touch. Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys have been influential to a lot of noise rock bands over the years, even modern ones like Idols. Like, has that surprised you that some of these bands have come up and at shows and said you were the reason why I started playing music and things like that, or has there been a band that surprised you?
Um, yes and no. On the other hand, it's flattering, and you know, when you're growing up and you're starting, everyone has their favorites that influence them and excite them and make them want to go out and do something. So for the projects and things to evolve to where now we are one of the ones that influence people and makes them motivate them to go out and do something is, I don't know, it's kind of like the whole thing kind of comes full circle, doesn't it? And also, it's one of those things also where I kind of feel like if it just goes to show you stay in the game, it comes back around. The big wheel will come back around to the starting points. And, you start and you're doing this thing, it might evolve slowly. Suddenly, you're not the hip new thing anymore, but then you stick it out and suddenly now you're not the hip new thing, but suddenly you're showing up in other things that are the hip new thing. So it's kind of satisfying in that way, and I don't deny that. But we want to be, just appreciate it on our own terms. And I'd like to think if you like us, if you already like us, you will like this album. And if you haven't heard us before, but you're curious, I'd like to think those people will like it too. So we'll see.
It's exciting, man. Exciting times. And of course, you've got this really strong cult following where, excuse me, can you understand me properly? Or am I,
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
usually a bit more high pitched. But your merch, for instance, some of the classic shirts and posters and things like that go for massive money, like big money. The people will fork out big
Sick.
for that. It's crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
sick. Yeah. It's that is a development I don't know what to make of. Um, I certainly don't spend money on that kind of money on those kind of things.
It's I mean it's on one hand it's cool, but the other hand it's like, man, I know what it's like being in a band. You fork out money for merch so you can just pay for gas and you know more merch for touring and stuff.
Yeah.
And then years later it's like you see the same stuff go for like so much more money and you're like, how did
I
that
just don't think about it. I don't look at those things. I don't think about it, to be honest. You can't.
man. But have you got old merch like that like in a vault
No,
somewhere? You don't keep any of that you
no,
memorabilia?
no, I don't. I don't. And it's funny, back in the day, every time we put something out, we would each get, oh, I don't know how many copies of whatever it was. And I would freely give them out. I gave them out to family, to friends. I was giving lessons as a guitar teacher. I'd give them to students, and I'd keep maybe one or two for myself of everything. And so I don't have any of that stuff. Um, I don't have any old shirts. To me, that stuff wasn't meant for me. That was made for people, for fans to buy. And at this point in my life, it's funny, I was just talking about this with someone earlier today. I don't typically wear rock and roll t-shirts anymore. I feel like at my age, at this point in my life, I don't want to say it's undignified. I just I feel somewhat silly doing that. I feel like I want simple, small logos. Um, but yeah, I don't have any band merch from other bands either. I just don't anymore. Um,
Okay.
but I'm glad people do, and I'm glad people like ours. And I really think that if you saw that movie Nope, the Jordan Peele movie Nope, and you saw Kiki Palmer wearing our wolf shirt, I would surely think that if nothing else, that would motivate you to go out and buy multiple copies of that shirt for Christmas presents
There you go. Can you get can you get them still? Like yeah,
or
the,
Halloween presents. Do you have Halloween in Australia?
yeah, not really. We do, but
No.
we don't because we're so far down here. Like it's definitely a commercialized thing, but it's not something like you guys have over there. We
I
just
would think be a it would be a great thing
okay.
in your country. I
All
think it
right.
would. Australians seem to be fun-loving, ready to throw a party at the drop of a hat. Seems to me a Halloween party with Jesus Lizard in the background would be a great time.
I think that's a good idea. I'm going to start the campaign, the Jesus Lizard Halloween party, and then you
Yeah,
guys can come and play.
you're right. We probably can't do it this year, but next year, work on that.
I'll hold you to that. Talking about Australia though, just want to know, big day out. That was something that was massive down here for us. And you guys did 96. I remember
Yeah,
that. What a wild time, man. How was that?
that was something else. I mean, that was quite a lineup, as I recall, right? Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Rancid. Who else? That was a lot of bands.
Rage Against the Machine, I think were on there. She had,
Stage,
man, it was huge.
Jihad. Oh, all those Australian bands from that time I really liked. I liked them. And who was the one that had that song, Silver Lizard?
Oh, Tumbleweed? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Front End Loader.
Front end loader. Okay.
Spider Bite.
Yeah, it's another one. Yep. What a crazy time, man. I've seen footage recently, and you guys were just insane. All those people just like that, man. Like,
That was a great time. That was a great period.
so are you coming back to Australia? I mean, you got plans to come and visit us again?
Um, well, I would hope so. We're talking about it and we want to. We won't this year. We're already booked up
Hmm.
this year and we're booked up halfway into next year.
Wow.
Um, but I haven't seen anything yet. We want to, and we want to come there in Japan and New Zealand. It would be nice to make a whole trip out of that because I just love it there. I love it, that part of the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm being interviewed by, I mean, genuinely, we all do. Um, so we'll see if there's enough demand to make it worthwhile for us to bring us over. We will be there with bells on.
When was the last time Jesus Lizard toured here?
Oh, that's been a long time. Late 90s.
Yeah. It wasn't, it was, you came back after that Big Day Out tour, didn't you?
We did. It wasn't quite as big. It was later. I've been back with Tomahawk
You have.
at least once or twice, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, but not the Jesus Lizard. We couldn't quite make it happen back in '09. We did a worldwide tour, but we couldn't quite make that happen. I don't know why.
Mm. Well, I'm definitely keen to see you guys again, that's for sure. Outside of that, is there more Tomahawk on the way or other projects you're working on outside?
I don't know. I'm not really working on anything else right now, but really, I want to focus on this and because this is kind of exciting. We got the album is about to come out and we're about to launch, start playing some shows for keeps. So I really want to focus on this. But uh, we'll see. I like doing other things and I'm open to other things. So we'll see what's going to happen. The next couple of years are going to be interesting.
Yeah, man,
But
that's awesome.
sorry.
I said that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
and who knows? The Jesus Lizard, we're like I said, we're already booked up almost a year ahead by now, and there's more stuff. There'll probably be more stuff happening. So we'll see.
Man, so good. And I've got to get Rack on vinyl. That's my that's what I'm putting
You
on my goal.
should.
Man,
Everyone should.
it's gonna
Everyone
sound
should have.
incredible. It's gonna, man, I can't wait to put it on that thing and just let it take me away. That's the plan. Because I heard it digitally, but there's nothing. I'm one of those. I want to hear it just on vinyl. Take away. That'll be amazing.
I like the CDs too. I still like CD. I'm coming back to CDs, in fact.
Oh, really? Like some people,
Yes.
hey, CDs are still big in Japan.
They went away here, but now they're coming back, even with kids, and I still like them. Um,
Oh,
there's
okay.
pros and cons to everything, but I think they're better than streaming. It sounds better than than an MP3 or
Hmm.
whatever else it's going to be. Um,
Buy it and hold it. Get a physical copy.
and read it, look at it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. You know, because you look, this is one thing I find is sometimes you go back to listen to an album on streaming and it's not there. For some reason, it's just been temporarily pulled off, and you're like, where'd it go? And you're like, you can't listen to it. So at least you,
Yeah,
yeah.
that world is odd. It's also a lot of times the information is not all there either.
Mm.
When you get an album, I use streaming service called Hoopla through my local library system,
Okay.
and it's free and it's, convenient, but it doesn't have information. You can't, well, who did this and who's on this, and it doesn't tell you. And then, well, nowadays you look it up online, but that's half the time that's not right.
Yep. That's right. Got a whole generation of kids that are singing the wrong lyrics because they don't have the lyric books, right? In the CD case books.
Well, we did that too. We would just make up our own.
I think I still do. Still do. But mate, thank you so much again for hanging out. It's been really cool. And sorry I can't talk properly this morning. I'm under the weather. I appreciate your patience.
You sound good. Now, what is Nev short for?
Neville.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know any Neville. I know Ian's and I know Graham's
Mm.
and I know those kind of names.
Oh, we got
But
tons left.
Neville,
Nah, there's not
Neville's a
many
good name.
left.
What's that?
Not many of me left. I'm like fifth generation Neville, but I'm
That's a
Neville.
great, oh, yeah. Well, that's a good name.
Thank you. Thank you. Got it from my grandfather. He was a good egg. But
Sure
mate,
he was.
thank you so much again. We're going to have all the links down here in the show notes and on the website. Duane, enjoy the rest of your public holiday, and we'll see you next year.
All
Halloween.
right. I hope to see you. Yes, indeed. I hope to see you next year. Please say hello if you're in the vicinity.
I would not miss it, mate. I'll tell you what. But thanks again, dude. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Cheers.